I think, of course, the greatest theologian, the greatest philosopher, the greatest preacher that ever graced this land was Jonathan Edwards. When we hear about Jonathan Edwards today, he is known more for his sermon, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, than for anything else. But what put Edwards on the theological map was a different sermon. It was preached much earlier than the sermon, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. And that sermon was entitled, A Divine and Supernatural Light, where Edwards talked about the sweetness and the excellence of the ministry of God the Holy Spirit, who illumines us that we may see the sweetness and the wisdom of the cross. Without the Spirit's taking the scales from our eyes, we would never behold the loveliness of Christ. We would spend our time marching in protests around the assembly of Christian believers. But Paul goes into this in the second chapter of 1 Corinthians, when he says in verse 6, we speak wisdom among those who are mature, but it is not the wisdom of this age, nor the rulers of this age who are coming to nothing. Well, let me just stop here for a second before I go on with this text. I think the greatest threat to the church in our day is based in our profound desire to be acceptable to the secular culture. We want to be accepted. Nobody wants to be considered a fool. Nobody wants to be deemed stupid. Beloved, I've spent my whole life in the academic world, and I know that the greatest moral weakness of Christian professors is their intimidation by the world for fear that they will be thought of being less than academically acceptable if they hold such positions as the inspiration of the Bible or the exclusiveness of Christ. These ideas that the world abhors. And so we wimp out. We lose our courage because we don't want to be thought of as being weak. But who is weak and we are not weak? Paul said, I'm with you in your weakness. And the strength of God is greater than weakness. Right now, as I speak, one of the closest friends I've had in my entire life is on his deathbed. In our hopes, he was scheduled to be here this week, but it was not to be in the plan of God. And he is dying in faith, and he is dying in triumph, and he is dying in joy. But I remember just a little over a year ago when Jim Boyce and I were together alone, and he was looking at the landscape of the evangelical world, and he looked at me and he shook his head and he said, R.C., we're surrounded by wimps. I don't know how many times that's gone through my mind. And I say, oh God, don't let me be a wimp. Don't let me be a coward who runs when the world is hostile, when the world laughs, when the world considers me a fool. I mean, what would you rather be than a fool for Christ? That's the greatest honor that you can ever have, is to be a fool for Jesus Christ. Because this foolishness is the wisdom of God Himself. Let's never forget that. We speak wisdom among those who are mature, but it is not the wisdom of this age, nor of the rulers of this age, who are coming to nothing. Why would you be concerned for 5 minutes about political correctness? The ideologies, the philosophies, the worldviews that mark this present world are coming to nothing. But we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery. The hidden wisdom which God ordained before the ages for our glory. What? Isn't that strange? Because almost always when the Bible speaks of glory, it is that which is given to God. In fact, God says what? I will share my glory with no man. And yet, from the foundation of the world, God determined and decreed that because of the cross and because of His only begotten Son, God was going to give His people a share and participation in His glory that the world would think was crazy. None of the rulers of this age understood this mystery. This was a hidden wisdom, for had they known, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory.